revealed. How one incredible wedding seat exposed family tensions and transformed my heart forever. Sarah stared at the seating chart, her stomach twisting painfully. Her name was written next to that of her estranged uncle, the family pariah, a man defined by a scandal she could barely bring herself to acknowledge. Somehow, in the midst of her younger sister's idyllic wedding plans, the balancing act of familial expectations revealed a gaping wound she hadn't realized existed. As the oldest daughter, the weight of tradition pressed down harder than she ever remembered. Her father's rigid standards for decorum suffocated her with relentless reminders of her responsibility to keep peace within their Midwestern clan. Did she have to sacrifice her own sense of loyalty to cater to these antiquated values? Beneath the surface of the wedding buzz lay tension, a tight coil of conflicting emotions and unaddressed grievances. She recalled countless family gatherings where tensions simmered, masked by the sweet smell of home-baked goods and forced smiles. This wedding, vibrant with flowers and laughter, now felt like an arena filled with unfulfilled expectations. Dad's words replayed in her mind, a stern reminder of her duty. Family harmony comes first. Was peace truly worth the hollow distance she sensed from her uncle? As she watched relatives shake hands, she felt a shiver of apprehension rise in her chest, her heart racing with uncertainty. Earlier that week, Sarah had been flooded with anxiety. The conversations revolving around the reception grew increasingly overwhelming. Everyone seemed to focus on seating arrangements, centerpieces, and menu selections. Yet the thought of engaging with a man who had been excised from family gatherings, who lurked like a shadow at the edges of her history, paralyzed her. How could she sit beside him, a legacy of disgrace, when her father expected silence in the face of such entanglement? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the evening drew closer, Sarah felt the knot in her stomach tighten. The reception hall sparkled with fairy lights, and laughter filled the air. It was a beautiful facade built atop crumbling foundations. The moment she caught sight of her uncle, quietly seated at the end of her table, anger mixed with overwhelming sympathy. Who was he without the label of disgrace? Why did the family deem him unworthy? When her father confronted her, the raw tension sparked a wildfire within her. You're sitting with him? The look of disbelief etched on his face ignited her own uncertainty. She took a deep breath, feeling the heat rise. Aware that this could fracture the facade of family loyalty she had tightly bound around herself for years. She felt torn: stay obedient to the patriarch or embrace a possibility that felt right in her gut. As the night wore on, Sarah glanced at her uncle, the weight of unspoken history swirling between them. In that moment, recognition settled in her heart, igniting a disturbing yet refreshing feeling of defiance. The promised connection of understanding felt tantalizingly close. But would it mean shattering her father's image of loyalty? She stood at the intersection of tradition and empathy, aware that any step could redefine her sense of family forever. The night stretched before her as she grappled with the enormity of her decision, her insides tumbling with both fear and longing, the ultimate question echoing in her mind. What did family truly mean? The reception hall buzzed with energy, yet each laugh and cheer felt distant, as if the atmosphere were trapped behind a thick glass wall. Sarah's eyes remained glued to her uncle at the far end of the table, his presence gnawed at the edges of her thoughts, forcing her to confront a complexity that had festered within her for years. Could her hesitation stem from fear of breaking an unspoken family code? Or was it the fear of her own vulnerability and the potential for connection? Each tick of the clock seemed to mock her indecision. As the dance floor filled with jubilant couples twirling in a flurry of gowns and tuxedos, Sarah's heart raced under the weight of choice. An unexpected thought surfaced in her mind. What if her uncle carried just as much pain as she did? The family narrative she had inherited painted him as a villain, but she began to wonder if he had been merely human, flawed and fighting against a tide of misunderstanding. The dichotomy of her father's loyalty and her own burgeoning empathy created a storm of anxiety within her. The moment her mother approached, Sarah braced herself for another layer of expectation. "Sarah, darling," her mother began softly, "are you going to sit with him the entire evening? Your father doesn't, Mom. Can't you just let me figure this out?" Sarah's voice trembled, a note of rebellion surfacing. She felt almost liberated for speaking up, for dismantling her mother's expectations piece by piece. Seeing the surprise on her mother's face, she forged on, "I need to talk to him. I need to see if there's another side to this story." "Your father's expectations are not my own," she interrupted, surprised by her own strength. The words felt foreign yet empowering. For years she'd played the dutiful daughter, maneuvering through family gatherings like a marionette. But now, a spark ignited. As she made her way to her uncle, the air shifted. The laughter surrounding her faded, plunging her into a silent world where only the two of them existed. Hesitation slithered through her thoughts like an unwelcome guest. Yet the closer she walked, the more the tension in her chest softened, revealing longing beneath. "Uncle Charlie," she said, summoning the courage that felt almost otherworldly. His head turned, and she noticed the surprise and vulnerability in his eyes. "Can we talk?" He hesitated, glancing at the crowd surrounding them as if drawing courage from the collective energy. "I'd like that," he said, a hint of hope coloring his voice. She felt that glimmer ignite a new determination within her. As they stepped away from the crowds, something significant shifted. The conversations she'd rehearsed in her mind receded, replaced by an uncharted territory of curiosity. Each question that emerged was not merely about his past, but also about her own beliefs. What had she accepted without questioning? With every word they exchanged, Sarah discovered more about her uncle's story: the shame, the regret, the yearning for forgiveness. And with that, layers of her upbringing began to peel away, exposing a raw, unfiltered version of family she had always been afraid to confront. Yet, the deeper they journeyed into his truth, the more Sarah felt the weight of her father's expectations looming over them like a dark cloud. Could she reconcile this burgeoning connection with the legacy of tension that defined her family? Each word from her uncle was both an invitation into deeper understanding and a challenge to the life she'd been leading, leaving her poised on the precipice of profound transformation. As they shared laughter and tears, a new realization dawned on Sarah. The bonds of family were not only defined by blood or scandal, but by the courage to connect amidst chaos. But as the night progressed, an undeniable truth tugged at her heart: would breaking away be seen as betrayal by those she loved? Would the peace she sought represent a fracture in the unyielding loyalty she had strived to uphold? She stood at the edge of a new understanding, ready to leap into a realm of individuality, but uncertain of the consequences that awaited her. Just as she felt the solid ground beneath her falter, her phone vibrated in her pocket. A message from her father blinked across the screen, demanding her presence at his side. The moment arrived. Would she stand for her new truth or retreat to the comforting shadows of old loyalties? The clash of her father's words against her developing resolve echoed through Sarah's mind. Each letter blinked brightly on her phone, pulling her back into the realm of expectation. She hesitated, glancing at Uncle Charlie's face, which now bore a mix of uncertainty and encouragement. His vulnerability mirrored her own, the struggle evident in the way he shifted from foot to foot, waiting for her decision. As she held the phone, she felt the weight of obligation and the taste of potential liberation. The difference between her father's strong legacy and her own burgeoning independence crystallizing before her. The crowd danced obliviously around them, the music a backdrop to her internal battle. Would she stifle her voice once more to adhere to familial loyalty, shunning the intimate revelations of the past few minutes? It felt like a betrayal of herself, an act of abandoning the bravery she mustered to step forward. Slowly, she silenced the phone, tucking it back in her pocket. A shudder of determination coursed through her as she returned her focus to Uncle Charlie. "I'm not sure how far I'll get in this conversation," she started, her voice steadier than she felt. "But I want to understand." A smile flickered across her uncle's face, a sign of hope revitalizing their connection. "Understanding is a good place to start," he replied softly. In that moment, Sarah made a choice that felt larger than life. tethered to the reality of her family history. She let go of the fears that had constrained her for years. You know about the stories, don't you? The way Dad talks about you? Charlie nodded, a shadow flitting across his expression. Yes. The past has a way of defining us, or at least how we're perceived. Sarah felt her heart constrict, the clash between familial allegiance and personal truth tugging at her. Have you ever wanted to set the record straight? I've longed to, he admitted, voice low but resolute. But it's hard to change the narrative when the storytellers refuse to listen. She considered this. In her own life, she had often followed the stories told by others, burying her reflections in an effort to maintain harmony within her family. The thought of reclaiming her own story ignited a flicker of rebellion. Was it possible to be a part of her family, while still seeking her truth? Maybe we can rewrite some of those narratives together, Sarah suggested, emboldened by her uncle's encouragement. If I understand your side, perhaps I can stop living in the shadows of someone else's truth. A long-lost gleam of affection illuminated Charlie's gaze. You're wiser than you know, Sarah. It took me years to gather the courage to face my own mistakes, to confront the uncomfortable truth of being human. It can be intimidating, though. The words wedged themselves into her thoughts. Intimidating. That was the essence of her experience, an inner conflict of anticipation and dread. But this new path thrived on possibilities rather than limitations. She was no longer simply the dutiful daughter. She was forming her identity from the ashes of convention and expectation. As they shared stories, gradually unearthing buried emotions, Sarah felt a metamorphosis underway. Layers of guilt and shame began to dissolve, revealing a tapestry of connection. Each moment they spent together stitched her understanding into something tangible, a recognition of shared struggle, an embrace of vulnerability, and an acceptance of imperfection. But just as they found a rhythm, her phone buzzed again with urgency, and a tightness gripped her heart. She glanced down to see another message from her father. Where are you? Come now, this is important. The shift was palpable, like a storm gathering on the horizon. Uncertainty returned, threatening to dismantle her newfound resolve. Would she stay and continue exploring the truths that freed her spirit, or would she yield once more to the weight of expectation? She took a deep breath, sensing the critical crossroads before her. The journey she had embarked upon with Uncle Charlie promised solace and understanding. Yet her father's call demanded her attention, drawing her back into the suffocating familiarity. In that moment, Sarah faced the essence of her conflict. To honor her growth or respect the ties that bound her to the past. Her heart raced with possibilities, and she knew the choice ahead would define her future in ways she now yearned to explore. Standing at this precipice, she gathered her courage, ready to face the impending storm. The moment of truth loomed near, and with it, the chance to reclaim her identity in a family history fraught with tension. A decisive turning point awaited. Sarah's heart drummed a frantic rhythm as she stared at her phone. She felt as if the world around her had dimmed, leaving only her choice shining under an unforgiving spotlight. Uncle Charlie, with his knowing eyes, seemed to grasp the enormity of this moment. She needed to decide. Do you think I should go to him? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Charlie sighed, his expression straddling concern and encouragement. Only you can determine what matters more, Sarah. Understanding yourself often means stepping away from what is safe. It's just the way he demands my presence, she replied, the heat of frustration pooling beneath her skin. I don't want to fall back into old patterns. She felt that every time she acquiesced to her father's wishes, a piece of herself faded into the background. The burden of familial expectations had burdened her for years, and this moment felt pivotal. Then don't. You have a chance to redefine those patterns, Charlie offered, his voice steady. Sarah's mind thrashed between two diverging paths. She could return to the safety of her father's expectations, where the narrative never shifted, or she could forge ahead, risking the very foundation of her familial connections. The fear of what her father might say or do loomed large, but she sensed a flicker of defiance bubbling within her, a wish to rewrite her narrative. What if I confront him? She said, the words tumbling from her lips. What if I tell him I'm not living my life for him anymore? And what if he rejects that? Charlie countered gently. You need to be prepared for that reality. Change generates resistance, especially from those who held power. Her fingers clenched the fabric of her jeans. The notion of confrontation terrified her. Yet it sparked an unexpected adrenaline rush. Could she really find the voice she buried beneath layers of compliance? I need to learn to be uncomfortable, she stated, her determination coalescing into a distinct clarity. What did I learn today if not that? A proud smile crept onto Charlie's face, one that lit a warm path through her uncertainty. Embracing discomfort is part of the growth you seek. Remember, this is your life, and every story needs a protagonist who can drive the narrative forward. His words resonated deeply, lifting the fog of indecision. Sarah inhaled, filling her chest with conviction. She could see a glimmer of the person she wanted to become, a version of herself unshackled from family lore, ready to stand tall. I'm still afraid, she admitted, her vulnerability surfacing amidst the bravery. Fear is often the companion of growth, Charlie replied. It indicates that something important is at stake. Use it, don't let it paralyze you. The rush of clarity grounded her, transforming anxiety into determination. With steely resolve, she rose from her spot, surveying the bustling crowd. Uncle Charlie stood beside her, facilitator of this newfound belief. Then I'll face him. I'll carve out a space for my truth, even if it shakes his world. Good, said Charlie. But remember, you're not alone. The courage you've found can be the bridge to your family too. As Sarah moved through the thrumming crowd, the anticipation of her confrontation loomed like a beacon. She felt her rhythm quicken, numbers merging into one vibrant pulse as she made her way toward her father. The moment was nearing. Would she truly unveil the truth that had lingered in the air, thick with unspeakable tensions? The closer she got, the stronger the conviction thrummed within her veins. The stakes had never been higher, that a new anxiety gripped her as she approached her father's figure, silhouetted in conversation. She could feel the weight of past disappointments, expectations, and even hopes. This was it, her moment to confront the storm brewing within her family. Don't back down, Charlie urged softly, a background presence. You are rewriting your story. Drawing a deep breath, Sarah reached for the resolve that had just ignited. But beneath that fortitude, an ominous question remained. Was she ready to face the shattering impact of her choices? With a renewed sense of purpose, she stepped forward, her heart racing. The air crackled with anxiety and anticipation as she readied to ignite a transformational confrontation that could redefine her place in her family's legacy. As her father turned to face her, something in his gaze flickered, a hint of apprehension mingling with authority. Sarah steeled herself. The truth waited just beneath the surface, not yet spoken, but undeniably present. What would be unleashed when the storm finally broke? The atmosphere around her felt electric, an unmistakable buildup of tension as Sarah stood before her father. His casual posture seemed incongruous with the gravity of their encounter, but she recognized the suppressed strain etched on his face. It was a mask she had seen countless times, a facade that stifled authenticity. Dad, she began, her voice quaking slightly but gaining strength as she spoke. We need to talk. For a fleeting moment, uncertainty clouded her thoughts. Was this the right way to approach him? But she banished the doubt, reminding herself of her resolve. The weight of family expectations had pinned her down for too long. This was, at its core, a necessary confrontation, not just for her sake, but for the integrity of their relationship. That he shifted, a flicker of impatience in his eyes. What's wrong, Sarah? I thought we were having a family dinner. His dismissive tone ignited a spark of rage within her, but she channeled it into clarity. It's about more than dinner. It's about how you treat me, how you see me. I don't want to keep pretending I'm someone I'm not just to fit into the role you've assigned me. The air around them turned thick with unspoken judgment. Sarah could feel the weight of her statement hanging precariously between them, challenging the very foundations of their interaction. His face hardened slightly, and she sensed a shifting dynamic. This was not the reaction she had hoped for, but it was one she had to confront head-on. What are you talking about? His voice held a defensive edge, but so did hers. I'm tired of being the obedient daughter. I want to live for myself. You have to understand that your expectations are suffocating. She burst out, each word fueled by the accumulated resentment from years of compliance. His brow furrowed, confusion mingling with disapproval. This isn't like you, he replied, as if her behavior was a blasphemous betrayal. We don't have to talk about this in public. The public isn't the issue. You refusing to acknowledge my experiences, to see me as I am, that's the real problem. The tension coiling within her surged as she asserted herself. In every fiber of her being, she felt the shift. This wasn't merely about confronting him. It was about her redefining their relationship, the power dynamics that had long rendered her voiceless. The challenge no longer felt daunting. Instead, it became a gateway to growth. And what if I don't agree with you? What then? He countered, the authority in his voice rising. Then I guess you want to see how much I've changed. Disappointing you has become a habit I want to break. The truth felt raw as it spilled from her lips. It was both liberating and terrifying, a direct rebellion against years of built-up tension. She took a breath, trying to ground herself amidst the emotional storm raging within her. I'm not asking for your approval, merely for you to listen, to acknowledge that I'm trying to be my own person. Silence stretched between them, heavy with the weight of their history. The distant laughter from other diners and the clinking of glasses seemed to fade away, leaving only the two of them in this pivotal moment. As her father registered her words, something shifted in his stance. She saw the battle of emotions play out across his face: confusion, anger, and beneath it all, a flicker of concern. But she knew she was crossing a threshold now. There was no turning back. Just because you want to be heard doesn't mean it will change anything, he finally said. But Sarah sensed an undertone, a hint of uncertainty beneath his resistance. I don't expect my life to change overnight, she replied, her voice firm but softer now. But I need to grow, to learn who I am outside of your expectations. This is about moving forward, not trying to erase what has been said or done. For a brief moment, she saw it, a crack in his armor, vulnerability widening the space between his authority and her truth. Maybe, just maybe, he started, his voice faltering a bit. You might need time to adjust to those changes. The enormity of the conversation weighed heavily on both of them. She reached a hand toward her father, trembling not with uncertainty, but with possibility. Time is exactly what I need, and I hope this conversation begins to carve out that space for both of us. As she took a step back from her emotional reach, an unexpected realization washed over her. Even if her father struggled to understand her now, this confrontation could lay the groundwork for something healthier moving forward, a tentative bridge forged through honesty. But doubt lingered restlessly. Could they really rebuild the foundations of their relationship? What if this was merely the beginning of a confrontation that could fracture their family ties entirely? The taste of uncertainty lingered in the air as Sarah prepared to face the next inevitable questions, bracing herself for the aftershocks of her revelations. In the stillness, both of them understood the stakes had been raised, and a transformation was underway that could shatter or fortify the bonds they shared. How far would she be willing to go to secure her truth, and at what cost? The quiet aftermath of her declaration left Sarah feeling both empowered and unnerved. It was as if she had ignited a small flame in what had been a smoldering pit of silence between them. She glanced at her father, searching for a flicker of comprehension in his gaze, but all she saw was his familiar veneer of control. The dinner buzz resumed around them, yet in their bubble of tension, the world felt muted and distant. Do you really believe it's that simple? He asked, his voice low as he grappled with the remnants of his authority. Simple isn't the word I'd use. Sarah felt a weight settle into the pit of her stomach. It's complicated and messy, but I can't pretend anymore. She could sense the drawing back of his defenses, the hesitance to dismiss her outright as he had done in the past. Messy is relative, Sarah. You're changing, yes, but I need to know what that means. With every question, he attempted to regain his position, digging into his comfort zone of authority. She narrowed her eyes, not willing to retreat into the shadows his tone cast. It means I'm taking responsibility for my own choices. For the first time, I'm identifying what matters to me instead of what matters to you. The room's chatter surged again, providing a backdrop to their conversation as other families continued to celebrate without the weight of transformation on their shoulders. Sarah's heart raced at the thought of standing firm in a moment that could determine her future. But Sarah, your choices have consequences. Have you truly thought through this? His eyes searched hers, a mix of probing concern and paternal instinct battling against the rigidity of tradition. Of course I have, she replied, her voice steady. That's why I'm here. I need you to see me, Dad. I'm not just the good daughter. I'm a woman who deserves to chase her own dreams and maybe, just maybe, redefine happiness in her own terms. His brow knitted further. A visible struggle etched into his features. The flicker of his vulnerability from earlier seemed to fade as old habits battled against new realities. But your dreams might lead you down a path I don't approve of. I can't live my life in fear of disappointing you anymore. The clarity of her resolve crystallized, emboldening her to push forward despite the potential fallout that he sighed heavily, the air cool with unresolved tension. I don't want that for you, Sarah. I want you to succeed. But what? She interrupted, the fire within her demanding more than platitudes. Are you more concerned about your image than my happiness? Why must you frame it like that? The defensiveness broke through, and she could feel the groundwork of understanding slipping away. But she held her ground, refusing to let irritation dislodge her purpose. I don't want your approval, Dad, she reiterated, her voice fierce despite the shaking beneath her composure. I've spent years seeking it, and I need to find what makes me whole. This is not about you, it's about me discovering who I truly am. His silence was the loudest answer she could have received. With each moment that passed, the air between them became heavier, suspended with both potential and peril. The distant sounds of laughter resounded, but they faded into the backdrop as Sarah felt momentum building. An invitation to go deeper into this uncharted territory. Then what's next for you, Sarah? He finally asked, a hint of curiosity breaking the tension. Despite the apprehension still lurking in her heart, hope bubbled to the surface. Next is learning to embrace my choices without fear. It doesn't mean we won't have conflicts, but I need time to explore who I am outside of your perceived ideals. The unexpected openness behind his question gave way to the possibility that maybe they could navigate this unsteady terrain together, even if it meant traversing difficult conversations and facing uncomfortable truths. That as they sat in the shared silence, Sarah felt an alarming mix of anticipation and dread. She had crossed a threshold, but the path ahead was still shrouded in uncertainty. What would her next move be in this precarious dance of family dynamics? Would her father continue to resist, or could he, with time, learn to walk alongside her in her evolving journey? The thought of forging this new path ignited a fierce determination within her. How could she build a bridge of understanding? And was her father really willing to meet her halfway? Or was this merely the beginning of a battle over control that would test their very relationship? With each heartbeat, she realized the stakes were higher than she anticipated, but for the first time, the echoes of her past no longer dictated her future. With renewed conviction, Sarah leaned into the moment, aware that real growth often came from facing the truth in all its rawness, and she was ready to chart her course. What first step would she take to navigate this delicate reality? And what unforeseen consequences lay ahead? The tension hung thick in the air, each heartbeat punctuating Sarah's resolve. She felt a prickling of anxiety mixed with anticipation, a cocktail of emotions she was slowly learning to embrace. No longer would she be shackled by the chains of expectation. It was time to carve her path, even if it entailed venturing into unknown territory. Perhaps I should take some time, she suggested, tilting her head slightly as she gauged her father's reaction. To think about all this. I need to discover what I truly want. Her father's lips pressed into a thin line, a sign of his unease. Time is a luxury, Sarah. In the real world, decisions have to be made quickly. Consider the repercussions. His words struck a nerve. They mirrored fears she had buried under layers of obligation. But estrangement from her needs was becoming unbearable. I understand, she replied, her voice steady, but I also want to approach my future as a conscious choice, not a reaction to fear. There it was again, the tightrope of dialogue between them, where each statement crafted a more complex overlay of emotions. As she held fast to her poise, she noticed the melons of feelings playing across her father's face. Worry, disappointment, and possibly even admiration. He had always been the paragon of decisive action, but clarity eluded him in this moment. Let me show you, she proposed, taking a leap. Not just through words, but through my actions. I want to do something that completely aligns with my vision of myself. What do you mean? He questioned, momentarily distracted from their previous standoff. I want to take on the project I've always imagined, the art space for young creators. It represents everything I want to become, not just for me, but for others struggling to find their place. But I need your guidance. Confusion and skepticism flickered across his features. How can you be sure this isn't just another impulse? Because this feels different. It's not about avoiding disappointment anymore. It's about envisioning something positive. I've spent too long in your shadow, Dad. This project is about making a mark of my own. His silence loomed again, prompting a knot of tension in the air. Could he see the potential in her idea, or were his preconceived notions too deeply rooted to adapt? The thought of him rejecting her vision made her pulse quicken, but fear could no longer be her driving force. Let me build a proposal, she continued, emboldened. If it doesn't convince you, if it falters, I'll accept that this path isn't meant for me. But I must try to demonstrate I can grow beyond what you expect of me. Slowly, she saw the wheels of contemplation turn in her father's mind. A proposal, huh? He muttered. That's a significant commitment. You know this won't be easy. I'm ready for hard work. I'm ready to understand real responsibility, not just as a daughter but as a creator, she asserted, a flicker of determination igniting anew. Fine, he relented, a hint of reluctant acceptance softening his demeanor. Show me. But be warned, Sarah. This life is riddled with challenges you might not foresee. The word stung. Was he offering support or merely a veiled warning? The stakes were being raised, but with that elevation came an exhilarating charge. The fear of failure was there, but the possibility of success loomed larger. In the days that followed, Sarah dove into her proposal with unwavering focus. Early mornings transformed into late nights filled with sketches and plans, her apartment slowly morphing into a creative hub. Her hands became familiar with the feel of paper and ink. And gradually, her self-doubt shifted into empowered action. At times, frustration pulled at her, like strings trying to tether her to past insecurities. But each challenge was now perceived as a step forward, an opportunity to redefine her relationship with herself. With each draft and iteration, her vision crystallized, revealing flashes of potential she once believed were just distant dreams. As she pinned up her final drafts, she felt lighter. Each choice made in her name, each aspect of her work was tied irrevocably to her identity. She longed to share this with her father, to reinforce the relationship they had begun to rebuild. But sharing her progress would mean facing a new set of uncertainties. Would he embrace her visions, or retreat into familiar paternal protectiveness? This confrontation loomed on the horizon, casting long shadows of doubt. What awaited her when she presented the fruits of her labor? Would this endeavor become a cornerstone in the relationship she sought to foster? Or could it just as easily unravel everything she had worked so hard to begin constructing? These unsettling questions loomed, edging her ever closer to yet another defining moment. As the afternoon light filtered through her window, a fresh wave of determination swept over Sarah. She stared at the completed proposal sprawled across her dining table, each meticulously crafted paragraph echoing the conviction surging through her veins. This wasn't just ink on paper, it was a testament to her journey, a leap into authenticity that had, until now, felt terrifyingly out of reach. Yet, the thought of presenting it to her father hung like a cloud overhead. In the midst of her excitement, doubt crept in quietly, wrapping itself around her thoughts. What if he didn't see the vision? What if her dreams crumbled under the weight of his expectations? Drawing a deep breath, Sarah forced herself to focus. It was time to shift from creator to presenter. She meticulously rehearsed her pitch in front of the mirror, envisioning her father's expressions, questioning him relentlessly while answering his anticipated challenges with assertiveness. Each rehearsal stripped away layers of anxiety, revealing a woman ready to confront the complexities of her past and the future she yearned to create. The following day loomed, a Thursday transformed by purpose, yet fraught with tension. She couldn't shake off the thought that this conversation could either fortify their bond or threaten to dismantle it entirely. As she placed a call to schedule their meeting, her heart raced. Would her father comprehend her transformation? Or would he see only the daughter attempting to defy him once again? The hours stretched interminably until they finally sat before each other in the small cafe where they'd had countless discussions over coffee. As she surveyed the familiar milieu, she felt acutely aware of their shared history, the laughter, the disagreements, the towering expectations. This was the backdrop against which her proposal would unfold. "Thanks for meeting me, Dad," she began, her voice steady but tinged with the apprehension of what was to come. He nodded, a slight furrow appearing on his brow. "You sounded serious on the phone. Let us hear it." With a shaky breath, Sarah spread her proposal across the table, hands trembling slightly as they pushed the pages forward. "I've been working on this for weeks," she said, her tone shifting from anxious to fervent. "It's an art space that fosters creativity among young people. I believe it can empower the next generation just as I have dreamed of being empowered." As she detailed her vision, she read her father's expressions meticulously, his skepticism wandering darker for several moments, but she pivoted expertly, addressing his concerns before he could voice them. She spoke of potential partnerships, community engagement, funding strategies, and the overarching impact. The more she crafted her argument, the stronger her resolve became. However, as she reached the crux of her proposal, the part about the personal stakes involved, she noticed how his eyes narrowed. "What makes you think you can handle this? You've never led something like this before." The words struck her like a gavel. There it was, the familiar suffocation of doubt that had lurked all her life. But now, fueled by the hours of hard work and self-discovery, Sarah felt the tether of her father's expectations loosen just slightly. "I might not have done something exactly like this before, but I've learned resilience," she retorted, her voice firmer than intended. "I refuse to let our past define how far I can go. We all start somewhere." A tense silence enveloped them, her heart pounding in her chest. Would he concede? Would he finally see the woman before him? Or would the weight of familial expectations swallow her ambitions whole? "Resilience is one thing, Sarah," he finally replied, his tone diffusing the earlier tension, "but this requires more than just passion. You'll need a strategy to manage failure as well as success." His words hung suspended in the air, prompting a riptide of emotions within her. Could he see both her need for independence, and perhaps a small sliver of his approval? Yet, she wondered if she should reveal her lingering fears, the fear of failing him more than of failing at the project. In facing his doubts, could she also expose her own vulnerability without fracture? The moment called for a resolution of sorts, a convergence of courage and honesty she hadn't anticipated. "Then I'll think about this, and I'll come back with a refined strategy that considers your concerns," she replied boldly, with unexpected precision. "But I will also keep exploring this art space. I need to do this for myself." As they locked eyes, Sarah sensed the shift in their dynamics. Something had been laid bare that day. And with that new thread woven in their relationship, a new sense of hope emerged, lighting the path ahead. Yet, the confrontation roused questions within her. Could she truly tackle the responsibilities she was inviting into her life? What awaited her on this untraveled road, after she faced her father and uncovered her true self? With every heartbeat reaffirming her resolve, she wondered if this would be yet another transition, or if perhaps it might lead to something deeper. And just like that, the winds of change blew once again, beckoning her to continue pushing forward into the unknown. The cafe buzzed gently around Sarah as she left the meeting with her father, her pulse still racing from their exchange. The warmth of sunlight spilled through the windows but felt strangely muted against the chaos swirling within her mind. She had successfully defended her proposal, even managed to assert herself in a way that was new. Yet seeds of doubt began to sprout. She walked away, the weight of her father's skepticism still heavy in the pit of her stomach. This was only the beginning. She would need a comprehensive strategy that could satisfy both her vision and her father's expectations. The prospect of drafting such a strategy felt daunting and unyielding, but deep down, rather than retreating to old patterns, she felt an inkling of excitement ignite. This was her chance. Each step resonated with a new purpose, not just a response to expectations, but a commitment to herself. The idea of cultivating an artistic space had been attached to her dreams for so long. Yet now it was morphing into a tangible reality. After her father's inquiry about her leadership abilities, however, a whirlpool of self-reflection engulfed her. Could she truly lead? Did she possess the necessary skills, or was she merely an imposter in her own narrative? That night, as she sat at her dining table, she reflected on her journey. Art had always been a refuge, a medium through which she expressed herself, but leading a project brought a host of new responsibilities. She began drafting her refined strategy, yet the empty pages felt like a stark reminder of her own inadequacies. Movement and action, these were vital tools for growth. But what specific actions would translate her dreams into reality? Instead of succumbing to frustration, she took a deep breath and initiated her plan. Perhaps it would start with strengthening her confidence in her leadership abilities. Next, she would need to gather insights from others who had successfully navigated similar endeavors. She reached for her phone, determined to connect with mentors and colleagues, initiating a whirlwind of scheduled calls and meetings. What could she learn from their triumphs and challenges? With each conversation, she aimed to gather tools that would help construct her vision into something robust. The act of reaching out felt liberating, a testament to her evolving sense of self. In the days that followed, commitment danced hand in hand with uncertainty. Sarah spoke with local artists, community leaders, and even attended workshops focused on project management and collaboration. Each encounter unveiled layers of knowledge that emboldened her, and oddly enough, each conversation whittled away at the remnants of her doubts. Yet amid the reframing of her narrative, Sarah also faced pushback from acquaintances who couldn't see the vision she held evident in her heart. As their cynicism brushed against her determination, she found herself questioning again, was this what she truly wanted? The external pressures had begun to turn into an internal conflict. Was she on the right track, or was she straying into the territory of delusion? Each day felt like navigating a minefield between passion and pragmatism. One afternoon, while sitting beneath a leafy oak with a cup of coffee, reflecting on her week, she made a discovery about herself. She thrived in spaces where uncertainty lived. This was where innovative ideas could be formed, forged in the fire of doubt and uncertainty. Embracing this chaos might just be key to not only her vision but also her growth. Introspection led her to reassess the vision that had remained sacred in her heart. What was she really trying to prove, not only to her father but to herself? Conversations continued to flow, ideas blossomed, and her resolve fortified with every moment spent contemplating what ultimate fulfillment would look like. By the following week, she finally sighted a date for her follow-up meeting with her father, an event hovering on the horizon like a gathering storm. Would he see the growth she was fighting for? As she prepared for that encounter, her thoughts shifted toward the outcomes. Excitement pushed through her worries, but equally unsettling were the doubts that loomed side by side. The stakes felt higher, the road ahead less certain. Yet this undertaking was hers alone. Determined to bridge the gap between fear and fulfillment, she wondered if the time had come to confront not only her father's expectations but her own. What revelations awaited her? With a resolute heart, she looked ahead into the swirling potential of what lay before her, determined to embrace what was to come: the next conversation, the next decision, and hopefully, the next breakthrough. Sarah stood in her living room, where sunlight poured through the window, illuminating the hard-earned proposal sprawled across the coffee table. This was her moment, her first step toward reclaiming her identity and forging her path. Gone were the years of living under the weight of family expectations. She had transformed from a dutiful daughter to an assertive creator, ready to confront her past and carve her future. After diligently refining her proposal for the art space, she felt a surge of both pride and anxiety. Today she would present it to her father again, a pivotal moment to solidify her newfound resolve. This was not just a project. It was a daring declaration of independence and the cornerstone of her vision moving forward. As she entered the cafe where they had met before, she felt a familiar mix of anticipation and trepidation. The once distant chatter became a backdrop, fading into obscurity as she focused solely on her father's expression. Would he recognize the woman standing before him, or merely see the daughter molded by his expectations? "Thanks for meeting me again, Dad," she began, her voice steady, reverberating with the strength she had cultivated. Each step forward felt like a leap into the vast unknown. "I appreciate your commitment to this project," he replied, his brow raised, inviting her to elaborate. She spread the freshly polished proposal across the table, her fingers trembling with a resolve she had never known. I've refined my vision, incorporating feedback and outlining a practical strategy. This space will empower young creatives in our community. It embodies my dream, who I want to become, and what I hope to provide for others. With each word, she felt the barriers of expectation begin to crumble. She articulated her vision with newfound clarity, emphasizing community involvement and the long-term impact of mentoring young artists. The passion in her voice resonated, intertwining with the excitement of possibility. As she reached the conclusion, she stole a glance at her father's face, searching for signs of understanding. He leaned back, contemplating her words with a guarded look. "This is a bold proposal, Sarah," he finally said, his voice steady yet edged with skepticism. "But leading such a project requires experience and unwavering commitment. Are you truly prepared for the challenges ahead?" "More than ever," she asserted, her voice unwavering. "I am ready to accept responsibility for my choices. I know this project won't be easy, but I'm committed to making it a success. More importantly, it reflects my identity." The silence that followed weighed heavily, and she could feel the heaviness of their shared history. Yet, within that silence, she recognized a flicker of admiration in his eyes, a glimmer of acknowledgement that she was now stepping beyond the boundaries he had set. "I can see you've worked hard, Sarah," he admitted, the tension in his posture easing slightly. "The fact that you're pursuing this out of passion is commendable. But what if it doesn't succeed?" "Failure might happen," she replied, embracing the reality that every endeavor carries risks. "But even in failure, I'll learn. That's part of growth, facing adversity head-on and nurturing resilience. This project is an opportunity to create something meaningful, regardless of the outcome." Her resolution floated in the air, defying the weight of past expectations. Recognition lit her father's features as he contemplated her words. "You've changed, and I respect that," he said slowly. "If you truly believe in this, I will support you, but preparation is key. Don't underestimate the challenges ahead." A rush of relief swept through her, but more profoundly, it felt like the first step toward mutual respect. "I don't expect our relationship to transform overnight," she acknowledged, feeling a warmth of understanding manifesting between them. "But I hope this can be a new beginning, a chance for us to rebuild." His lips parted into a soft smile, stirring a sense of hope within her. "Let us take it step by step, then. If you keep demonstrating this level of commitment, I'll be right here to support you. I'd like to help with the business plan, and even some connections in the community." As they discussed details and strategies, Sarah felt the grip of her past expectations loosen. The conversation was no longer fraught with unease. It painted the future with potential and possibility. She was not just gaining her father's approval, she was establishing a relationship based on understanding and honesty. With every detail they mapped out, Sarah's confidence solidified. She was not merely fulfilling his ideals. She was building her own legacy. Her heart swelled with a justified pride as they left the cafe, both having made strides toward mutual respect. Days turned to weeks, and Sarah dedicated herself to her vision. She immersed herself in community outreach, collaborating with local artists and educators. Each interaction fueled her passion, providing invigorating dialogues on creativity and mentorship. She organized workshops, held open houses to present her vision, and sought feedback on her ideas. The art space swiftly transformed from a dream into a reality. The joy of creating something lasting blotted out the remnants of self-doubt. And for the first time, Sarah felt a deep sense of fulfillment. She was coming into her own. The opening day arrived, filled with laughter, excitement, and an overwhelming sense of accomplishment. As she stood amidst her community, welcoming guests to the space she had envisioned, a familiar figure approached her. "Proud of you, Sarah," her father said, his expression brimming with warmth. "This place reflects your determination and creativity." A rush of emotions washed over her, and she embraced him. In that moment, they both understood they had traversed a considerable journey together. Not only had Sarah achieved a personal goal, but she had forged a new relationship with her father, built on mutual respect and understanding. The art space welcomed its first visitors, articulating her story while celebrating the creativity of others. She stood amidst the bustle filled with gratitude and pride, and finally felt at home in her own skin. As she surveyed the vibrant space, laughter and art converging around her, Sarah realized she had not just built a physical venue. She had cultivated a sense of belonging and selfhood, a testament to her bravery and resilience. "Embrace your truth," she whispered to herself, savoring the moment. This was her transformation, an indelible leap into her future that would inform her every choice moving forward. With a sense of fulfillment resonating within her, she concluded her journey of self-discovery and commitment to herself. The past had shaped her, but it no longer defined her. Now, she was the architect of her own destiny, wielding the courage to rewrite her narrative, embracing each step into her future with confidence and pride. Now is the moment to take action. You need to subscribe now to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Your support makes a difference. Comment below with your reactions and theories about this conclusion. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see the power of personal transformation. Don't wait even one more second to show your support for incredible journeys like Sarah's.